noise!
Welcome back to the next part of this Truth and Rhythm episode. Be sure to subscribe to this channel. If you've already done so, please share it with friends. Also become a member by joining Truth and Rhythm on Patreon, or consider donating at funkinstuff.net. Thank you so much for your interest and support. Enjoy. Well, so you mentioned, that you never really wanted to be the lead guy and all that, but you did eventually start putting out some solo records. What inspired you to get on that?
Well, again, keeping a band together is the hardest thing to do in the world. And I tried, and then it was like, you know what? I need to make some music, and I want to make some music, and to make the music that I want to do, I'm going to have to do it myself. And so I did. And, it's funny, even the very first solo record, Friends with Privileges, that was originally supposed to be all covers. I was doing that record to have something to sell at gigs. But as I was recording it, it started feeling good, and it was feeling better. And then, an original, I put an original here, an original there, and Waddy came to my house. I had a studio set up in the house, and Waddy came to the house and played, and I was on the road with the Stones, and Waddy sent me some rhythm tracks. He sent me some rhythm tracks, and I was like, oh, wow, I like this. And I started writing, I started writing to it. So, and it felt good. So I just put it on. So, what was supposed to be a cover record ended up being my first solo record.
And it's a great record, really varied, and love the covers. So you mentioned Pop That Thing and Cinnamon Girl, and
yes.
And Trance is really funky.
Trance, well, that was a new version. I originally wrote Trance with Tackhead. That's on, I think, Friendly as a Hand Grenade, if I'm not mistaken. Trance was on that. And so, again, I'm making my own record, and I can do what I want to do.
You got the Stones cover on there. It's a little bit of everything that came before.
Well, I decided, Scott, that whenever I do a solo project, because I've spent so much time with the Stones, every solo project that I do, I will put one Rolling Stone song on it. I decided to do that. So yes, I put that on Friends with Privileges, and then after Friends with Privileges, I wanted to make another solo record.
You got the bug.
I got the bug. I wanted to make another solo record, with not so many covers on it. And so I had hooked up with a guitar player that I had met here. I met here in Los Angeles. I got a call from an engineer friend of mine, Roby Banerjee. He's originally he's from Canada, and I met Robbie here years ago. But anyway, he called me one day and asked me. He was working with a young band. I think they were called Revis. The name of the band was Revis, and I went to the studio. Robbie asked me to come and, kind of help the singer along. And while I was there, I heard this guitar player and I was like, wow, this cat is good. And he and I became friends. I would use him a lot on a lot of solo gigs. And so when I was ready to do, my next solo project, I called him and told him I wanted him to be in the seat next to me. I think it's good, to have someone there to bounce ideas off of. And he was the guy that I picked. His name is Robert Davis. And I would go to his house and, I play him some ideas and vice versa. And a lot of the songs just came so easily. And so we started the process, and that record, I didn't want it to be what I had done before. And that record is exactly what I wanted it to, and I'm really proud of that record. I absolutely love that record. That's the album, The Bora.
It's a great rock. It's a rock album, is what I mean. Plain and simple.
Plain and simple. And I was able to, to get some really great players on that record. Waddy Wachtel.
Slash is on there.
Lash. Phil X, who took Richie Sambora's place for Bon Jovi. Phil X. Daryl Jones. Will Calhoun. I'm like Chuck D and Doug. Man, those cats gonna make me cry, man. They, when I listen to them, the time and work that they put in for the Bora, I get a little misty-eyed. Because they all came in. I called them and I asked them to come and play. And they played. Because I'm making records. It ain't no record company. That's me. I can't pay them what they worth. I can't. And I asked them to come, and they came, and they played their asses off, man. And Alpert Lee. Mm-hmm. Alpert Lee and Fode Suso together. Mm. See, I learned that. You know who I learned that from?
Mr. Laswell.
That's right.
How long did it take you to produce that record?
That record, it was kind of spread out because I was on the road with the Stones, off the road with Stones, on the road with myself. I would say in total, it was probably 8 months, 9 months. It's probably 8, 9 months. Let's say around 9 months, because like I said, I was going in and coming out, going in. And something else that I learned from making that record, before that, when I produced these records for Ronnie Wood, I produced 2 records for Ronnie Wood. And when I produced those records, I'd always make roughs and take them home and listen to them. You know, I was listening constantly. For that record, for the Bura, when I left the studio, I never took anything home. When I went on the road, I left it. So whenever I came back to it, it always was fresh to me. Lucas Nelson, Willie's son, is singing duet with me.
Mm.
I
got to, Dragon Attack is by far my favorite Queen song. So,
woo, you got good taste, man. Because I'm gonna toot my own horn for a second right here, Scott. But that track on the Bura is fucking hot.
No argument, man.
Ooh, it's so hot. Oh, Lord, that track is so hot. I remember when I first heard that track and listened to it, I'm like, you know what? Great track, but something's missing. Something is missing. And you know what it was? The funk.
Mm.
The funk it's still a great track, but it was almost there. And when I redid it, I was able to inject the funk in it. Damn, that's a hot track.
You reached back to that Bootsy experience and pulled it forward.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ooh, that's That Dragon Attack is on fire.
Yeah.
Ooh, you got good taste there, my friend.
Thanks. So your most recent record, let's talk about that, the Inside Out, which definitely an adventurous, even for you, I think, adventurous and departure, with the way you reworked these Stone songs and did the spoken style, kind of evocative of like the Last Poets kind of thing.
Yeah. Go on.
No, what inspired that, and what went into its creation, Bernard?
Well, when I was finishing up the Bura, you know what the Bura means, right? You know what the Bura is?
I do not.
I didn't think you did. Most people don't know what it is. It's kind of a dedication to a really good friend of mine. The Bura is a hurricane force wind that blows off the Adriatic between Italy and Croatia. And I was out doing some solo gigs, and I don't know how I got there, but I was in Croatia. I had some time off, and I was using a local drummer, and we had a few days, in between shows, and I didn't feel like going where everybody else was going, and like I think he said, "Hey, let me." I'd never been there before, so he said, I will take you to another place. So we're driving down the coast of Croatia, and we hit a tunnel. As we're driving through the tunnel, lights start flashing. Wah, 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 wah. And I'm like, yo, man, what's going on? And he says, you know the Buddha? I'm like, the Buddha? I don't know what a Buddha is. He said, the lights is the Buddha. This means the Buddha. So we drive through the tunnel. And when we come out the tunnel, a wind hit the van, and the van started. I never felt anything. It was like all of a sudden, it was pow, and he stopped, and he looked at me and said, "This is the Buddha." It's such a strong wind. It's like a hurricane force when it blows off the Adriatic. And he said, it's not uncommon for that wind to lift the van up and turn it over. It just happened. So when I was looking for a name for the record, I just remembered that story, and so I named the record the Buddha.
I'm glad you explained that, because I mean it's perfect for that record. So,
and Inside Out. Getting back to Inside Out, you're right. You're right when you mentioned the Last Poets. As again, I don't like doing what everybody's doing. I need to be challenged, and I'm always trying to challenge myself, especially if I'm making a record for myself. It has to be something different. So as I was finishing up the Bura, I was talking to Robert, Robert Davis, that co-produced the Bura with me, and I'm like, Robert, I got an idea for my next record. He said, yeah. I said, yeah. I said, it can't be anything like the last two records. I said, it's going to be something totally different. And so I thought about doing a spoken word record. And I kept just throwing the idea around in my head. And there was some song, what song is it? I'm trying to think of what song it was. Stone song I heard, and when I listened to the song and I'm listening to the lyric, I'm like, it just came together. That song would be incredible spoken word. So I just kept toying around with the idea, and I kind of went away from it. I'm finishing up the Bura. I had to go back on the road with the Stones. So yeah, we finished we finished rehearsal, and we're like doing sound checks, and I play Conga, and I hadn't played for a while, so I thought, let me go up before everybody gets there and let me just practice, the Conga. I only play on one song, but so let me just do that. So I'm playing Conga, and everybody's coming to the stage. We're gonna start the sound check, and Chuck Leavell says, hey guys, we're gonna do whatever song it was. We're gonna do this song. So I'm playing the Conga, and I can't remember the song that he said we were gonna do at the sound check, but I'm playing the Conga, and I had my mic, and I started saying the lyric in spoken word form as I'm playing the Conga. And everybody's walking on stage, and Chuck is smiling, and Keith is smiling, and everybody's smiling, and some people are laughing, They don't know that this is something I'm really thinking about. So it became a thing that I did at soundcheck. I do it, and I start reciting it in spoken word, whatever song. So one day, I'm going to the stage to practice, and Mick is on stage behind the conga. He's playing the conga, and he stops, and he looks at me and he says, "Bernard, I've heard Rolling Stones songs done a lot of ways, many different ways." He said, "But I've never heard it done like that." And I said, "Well, when the tour is over, I'm going to cut that." And he said, "You should." And then Keith said, "Yeah, make sure you do a good one. Do one of my songs." He said something. And so when he said that, that was a green light for me. So as soon as that tour ended, I got back home. Now, originally, my idea for that record, it was just going to be percussion, only percussion and voice. And I called Walfredo Reyes Jr., percussion player, drummer, and I asked him to come by the studio. Again, just everybody, just sweethearts. So he comes by, and we're talking rhythms, and it was important that the rhythms were from, the rhythms from everywhere. Everywhere in South America has a different rhythm. Different parts of Africa have different rhythms, and this is a conversation that we were having. And so it started with Walfredo, and he played a couple of grooves, and I have the songbook. So he's playing, and I'm scrolling through the songbook. The criteria was a strong lyric content. And a lot of the strong lyric contexts are not the A-sides. There's a couple, but most of them are album cuts or B-side cuts. Oh, the song I was trying to think about that I was telling you about that I had in my head was Undercover of the Night. Mm-hmm. The lyric is so strong.
That's one of the A-sides, but yeah.
Right. So I got that recorded. Then I called Lenny Castro. Lenny Castro, percussionist extraordinaire, also from New York City. My New York brothers in California, I called him, and I got him to overdub on some of the tracks, and I got him and Walfredo to play together. And then, I don't know, I'm hearing things in my head, and I decided, you know what, I want to make it. Maybe I want to make it fuller, not just percussion. So I get on the phone, and I call Vince Wilburn Jr., Miles Davis' nephew. I called Daryl Jones. And I asked them all to meet me at Vince's house. Vince has a, recording, facility in his house. So we all go to Vince's house, and they're like, "Yo, Bernard, what we doing?" And I tell them what I'm doing. They're kind of looking at me like, I remember one of them said, I just seen them like looking at me. I don't know, but I'm sure one of them must have been saying, "Bernard is out of his fucking mind. What is wrong with him?" And I remember somebody saying, Bernard, only you would think to do something like this. But anyway, we got to Vince's house. It was Darryl, Vince, and George Evans, guitar player. George Evans, guitar player. Now, that was crucial because what I was looking for was kind of old school, you know, 60s, 70s, you know, old soul grooves, you know, Barkays or Curtis Mayfield, or, you know, that's what I was looking for in my head. So I get there and I would just say, play. They were like, yo, man, what? Then I said, play, just play. And they start playing. Now the magic, I didn't know it. I didn't really think about it. But when I did think about it, and I'm looking at these guys playing, I'm like, oh shit, this is perfect. All three of them are from Chicago. They're all from Chicago, and that type of groove is all inside them. They grew up listening to that. They knew exactly. And they started playing, and I would say, okay, stop. That's the groove I want. Then they play again, and they play, stop. That little piece right there, that's the groove I want. That's where we start. And the day was like that. And at the same time, again, I have the lyric book. And I'm going through. And as they're playing, I'm reciting in my head. They're not hearing anything. I'm in my head, and that's how I knew it was right. So once I got that, once I got those tracks, there was one thing missing in some of those rhythm tracks. And what was missing was that wah, you know, that soul wah, like a shaft, you know, the wah.
Yeah. So was that was that Ray Parker that brought that, or?
I called Ray. And he's like, yo, man, what are you doing? What you trying to do? I'm saying, Ray, man, I need some wah. I need some funky guitar. Look, when you need some funky guitar, who are you going to call?
Yeah.
Who are you going to call?
Ray Parker.
So Ray says, he says, oh, Bernard, you know, I'll do it. And I met Ray through Steve Jordan. We had done a couple of Emmy shows together. And so he says, well, I don't know. He said, man, maybe you want to call Wawa Watson. And I was like, no, I want you to do it. And he said, okay. So he comes to Vince's house, plugs in, hit record, nailed it. One after the other, done. So I'm home. I get a call from Steve Jordan. And he'll call every once in a while. He'll call, yo, brother, yo, man, what you doing, man? So I said, I'm working on a new project, man. I said, man, let me hear what you're doing. So I sent Steve some of the percussion tracks. I didn't send him the rhythm sections. I sent just the percussion tracks. The next day, he calls and says, yo, man, I got to play on that shit. And I'm saying, okay, well, when you're in town next time, you know, when you're in town next time, okay. So he was in town. He might have been doing John Mayer or something. He's producing John Mayer or something. So he calls me, yo, man, where you at? I said, I'm at the studio. I'm coming over. Now, I thought he was just going to play on one track, the one track or the two tracks that I let him hear. He comes in the door with Clayton Cameron, the brush master. And he played on everything. And I'm like, oh, man, come on. It just started, everything just started to gel. And Michael Bearden, Michael Bearden, piano player, he was the MD for the Michael Jackson tour that didn't happen. Then Mike Garson came and played. Everything just started to, it just started, it just started to gel. Everything just started to gel. And, I found all the right lyrics. I matched the right lyrics with the right groove. And the song, I mentioned it just a second ago.
Undercover of the Night?
Yes. Okay, so, this is the last story I'll tell you about this record. So, I'm putting the finishing touches on. So, I'm listening to Undercover of the Night. And I started writing like a dialogue. Like, I'm writing dialogue of a girl who's in the middle. She's in the jungle, and this war is happening. The war is happening around her. So I'm writing from that girl's perspective. And once I had it, I thought, I need a girl. I wanted it in Spanish. So I asked Wilfredo, and, he sent me a couple of people, some of them were actresses and, but it just wasn't right. So I called my big brother Carmine, and I said, Carmine, I need a girl to come into the studio and read some dialogue for a track. I said, it has to be in Spanish. Carmine's Puerto Rican, New Yorkican. So I said, there's only one thing. She has to be from Nicaragua. So he calls me back. He says, she's on her way there. I'll meet you there in a little while. So the girl comes. Now, she's not a singer. She's not an actress. She's never been in a recording studio before. She comes with her son. And I give her this dialogue that I write. And she's reading it. And she seems a bit apprehensive, and I'm like, what's wrong? She says, just blew my mind. She says, Bernard, I want to she said, I don't know. She said, I don't know. What was happening was she was raised. She was raised during the war. She experienced the war in Nicaragua, and she didn't want it to be one-sided. She was worried about that, and I was like, no. It could be a girl from any side. You're not taking sides. And she said, okay. And she went inside, and she's reading this dialogue, and she starts to cry. Got it. I got it. And when I listened back to that, the hair on my arm stood up because it was just so real, you know. She was there during that war. So that was a magic moment.
Wow. That brings some
Magic moment.
authenticity.
Oof.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Wow. Well, congratulations on that record.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And you are right. You know, The Last Poets was in my head. Gil Scott-Heron was in my head.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I saw, you know, Deaf Poet thing on HBO, and Felipe Luciano, who was part of the original Last Poets, as well as part of the Young Lords. He recited a poem on there, and it was so strong. And I even wrote it in my book, Felipe Luciano, and that was another influence that helped me get through that. And I even gave him a special thanks on the record, you know, for some inspiration. So again, that's another record. I'm really proud of that record. And I went to Uruguay February. I went to Uruguay because I had met some master candombe percussionists. And the story from Uruguay, this I went there to record percussion for the next Inside Out project. And there's a whole story. He's like, you know, he's like descendant of slaves. He's a player and a drum maker. And you know, I found out the reason why the candombe looks like a pregnant conga. And the reason is, if you're in Uruguay and you look around at all the bars, you see Johnny Walker Red, Johnny Walker Whiskey, Well, the slaves in Uruguay, they took the whiskey kegs and put skins on them and made their drums. That's why they're shaped the way they are. I never knew that. Mm. So I was able to get him as Lobo Nunez. Lobo Nunez, he's a master candombe drum builder, drum player, and Ruben Rada. Ruben Rada. I was able to get the two of them, and they brought their sons. And so I have a bunch of percussion tracks for the next Inside Out, ready to go.
Locked and loaded.
Ready to go.
Very cool. Hey, thank you for all the stories, memories, and insights, and just talking to you. It's been a blast.
You got me going, man. I gotta make sure that I write some of these things. I'm taking notes for them. I'm starting to write. You know, I want to write a book about my journey through music, and a lot of those stories I have to make sure that I include. So thank you.
What can we look for next from you musically?
I'm writing a bit. You know, it's starting to come now because, you know, when COVID first hit, it threw me for a loop. I have not been in home, or I've not been in one place like this in 40 years. So you know, I don't think I was depressed. I was definitely depressed for, you know, first 4 months, man. Really depressed behind it, and I think I'm just now starting to come out of it. So I'm starting to write a bit. So I think you know, I want to make I want to do. I got two records I have to do. I have to do the follow up to the Bura, and as I said, I already have percussion tracks from Uruguay for the next version of Inside Out. So those are the two things that people can look forward to hearing coming from me. And who knows? Maybe there's something else that might come that I don't know about. I'm open. I'm open to collaborating, and maybe there'll be another Tackhead project. I love doing that Tackhead, and I love doing Nickel Bag, which we didn't cover at all. But that was those were two things. Those were two projects. Two projects that I thought had real promise: Nickel Bag and Tackhead.
Yeah, and before we did this interview, I mentioned that I saw your guys' show at the Key Club with Nickelback and this in the '90s and Stevie Salas and
Right.
yeah, that was fire, man. And
That was that's some tough stuff there, man. Tough
what
stuff
what
there.
was the Bootsy project when you met Stevie Salas?
Say again?
Was that Bootsy project how you met Stevie Salas?
No, no. I met Stevie Salas. Oh, I was coming from somewhere, and Bill again called me. He called me to do some to help to help uh, to help do some vocals on a project Stevie was doing called Third Eye. It was
Oh yeah,
Stevie,
Bootsy and
Buddy, and Bootsy. Right,
yeah.
right. Bill called me to go to the studio to help with that, and that's where I met Stevie. And I think a year or two later. Oh, after that, Stevie called me and asked me to sing a song for one of his solo records. And then a year or so after that, he called and we talked about doing a project together. And that was Nickel Bag. It was Nickel Bag when we did it, but the last time we got together to play that music, we changed the name from Nickelback to IMF, the IMFs, also known as the International Motherfuckers. And
Okay.
that was myself. Well, there were different versions, but the version that sticks with me band-wise, which I absolutely loved, was Stevie, myself, Dave Abruzzese from Pearl Jam, the original drummer from Pearl Jam, and Jara Harris, bass player from here. And
Slapback.
when that's right. And when Jara couldn't do it, we had T.M. Stevens. We had
Mm-hmm.
T.M. Stevens playing bass. God bless him. TM's not well now. He's living in the hospital. So, but we had some blinding shows, man. Ooh, man.
Well, I thought maybe you met Stevie at with that Bootsy project because I know he played on Leakin' on that, and then it was redone on that Third Eye project too. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I didn't meet Stevie during that Bootsy project. I met him during the Bootsy Buddy Miles project.
I got you. Very cool.
Hmm.
What's the best way for viewers to keep up with all things Bernard Fowler?
Um, there is a website. I do have a website, and you could check Instagram and Facebook. Whenever I'm doing something, I do try and post it. The next thing that I oh the next thing that I have that I almost forgot to mention. Um, a year ago, just over a year ago, well, more than that, You know, I did a I did a I did a tour with Earl Slick. Earl Slick. Earl Slick and I did a tour. Uh, uh, we did a tour. It was the anniversary of David Bowie's Station to Station album. And Earl called me, and David was still alive at the time, which is another pretty cool story. Because when Earl called me, I said, "Well, you know, that was one of my favorite Bowie albums." And so I asked him. I said, "Earl, does David know that you're going to do this?" And he says, "I knew you were going to ask that." I said, and he said, "Okay, let me tell you what happened. I called DB. That's what you go. I called DB and I told him, you know, I wanted to do this tour, you know, for the anniversary of the Station to Station record. And the first thing he asked me was, hey, Slicky, who are you going to get to sing?" And he said, "Well, I'm gonna ask Bernard Fowler to do it." And David's response was, "That's a good idea, Slicky. For a second, I thought you were going to call a skinny white guy to do Bowie-oki." And he was totally into it. He shared it on his social media. David shared it on his social media, what we were going to do. And when Earl and I started rehearsing for those dates, we were in London, David passed away. And so we had his blessing to do those dates. We didn't jump on a bandwagon. Those dates were booked, and David knew about those. And then more recently, a year ago, or a year and a half, 2 years ago, Mike Garson was doing a thing called Celebrating David Bowie, and both myself and Earl Slick joined him on that. Myself, Earl Slick, Carmine Rojas, Corey Glover from Living Color, a bunch of other people.
Keith, you mentioned hoping to get Tackhead maybe out there in the second half of 2021. So we'll see what happens. But
oh man, from your lips to God's ears, I would love to do that. I miss those cats, man. And I got to call Keith and tell him thank you for putting us together.
Absolutely. Thank you for doing it. It's been great getting to know you better. And
likewise, sir.
Be safe, man. Take good care.
And you take care of yourself, man. The COVID is out there and it's real.
Yeah.
Let's stay on this side of the ground.
Amen. Yep. All right.
Take care of yourself, Mr. Goldfine.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Truth in Rhythm. A big thank you goes out to our guest as well as to you, the viewer and listener. Also, much gratitude to Pleasure for supplying the show's funky opening and closing music. As a reminder, you can always access the complete list of linked shows by episode at funkandstuff.net. I urge you to support this program and receive the extra benefits along with that by subscribing to the Funk and Stuff channel on YouTube and sharing it with funk, R&B, and jazz lovers, joining Truth and Rhythm's membership program at Patreon, submitting a donation at funkandstuff.net, buying Everything is on the One, the First Guide to Funk book at Amazon, shopping at the Funky Things store for cool merchandise at funkandstuff.net, and linking through funkandstuff.net for all of your Amazon purchases. In addition, if you're an artist or anyone seeking proven, results-oriented professional marketing, PR, writing, or editing consultation or production, check out the media services section at funkandstuff.net. Also, I encourage you to drop me a line at scottg@funkandstuff.net. I love the feedback, suggestions, guest requests, appearance and sponsorship inquiries, and just talking about my favorite subject, groove-based music. For now, and as always, this is Scott Dr. GX Goldfine saying, keep on vibing to the rhythm of the one.
Bye.